Hi everybody, Jo here again. Hope you're keeping well and I hope your week started well after a lovely relaxing weekend. We all like one of those, don't we? Or did you do something exciting? Something you want to let us all share? Did you enjoy it? Was it fun? Was it something off your bucket list? Do you know, I can't wait to find out what you've been getting up to. Now, in our calendar journey, look, we're here with October. I'm just going to move this out of the way. And October, the inspiration trace is given us at the base of the page is the beautiful cauldron here. So I thought to fit with that, I'd come in with this little design. And I needed to use Penelope because I just adore Penelope. And one of our beautiful new stencils, an Ickle pumpkin and Specter because he's just fabulous. But again, there are so many different ways you could take this. You could add the cauldron here if you wanted. You could make this into a cave. You could have other witches. Maybe include the broomsticks. I mean, honestly, I can't wait to see what you do. And I must just thank everybody for sharing your calendars. When I go on our social media, on our Lavinia for You and Reach Out with Lavinia Facebook groups, it's amazing to see so many of you joining in with these calendars and to see your interpretation. And Joanne, a big shout out to you. Thank you for doing your New Zealand version of the plants and flowers. It's so interesting to see. So, you know, especially when you live somewhere different, it's just nice to share. And I love seeing just the way that you interpret things. After all, that's what we love, isn't it? So, as you know, I mean, after last week, well, I'm going to really try hard to not drop my ink pad on the design this week. My body's just not behaving as it should. I'm sure you're all the same. I'm not moaning at all, but we all go through little phases, don't we, where things just don't behave as they should. So I am liable to drop things. So if I was to make a complete Horlicks and I couldn't rescue it, this is going to go there. But if not, I'm hoping I can use this on a Halloween bag for the little girls next door. I always make my little Halloween bag up. So for me, this is perfect. Now, if you wanted to make smaller cards, I'm thinking, because this is an 8-inch by 6-inch, I'm thinking you could make just the middle of the design. And again, that's what I love, that you can take this. If you wanted to add more birds flying around, as you know, I love the white space, but you could add more to this if you wish. So I'm going to put that over there. And I'm going to start, I'm hoping you can see okay, with my lovely stencil. And this is out of the Autumn Mist collection. Now again, I know it's obvious, but do remember you can put your stencil either way. So, you know, maybe use it that way for a change. I'm going to come in this way. And I'm thinking, I've just wanted it a little bit higher, so I'm going to go there. Now, as always, I've just got some copy paper underneath. And then before I start, in fact, I should have done this. I've just got a piece of copy paper and I'm just going to cover this bit here because I tend to lean on this. And I just want to make sure I try and protect that as much as possible. Like I say, at the minute, I'm just having one of those, you know, dropsy sort of type of moments. Flying fig. Now, the calendar's sizable, so this might go out of shot, but I've got my brush, and a few of you have asked recently, me personally, I never wash my brushes. If I needed to take any ink off it, I'll just wipe it on my Inky Binky or a piece of kitchen roll. If ever you need to clean it, just do this. For me, that's enough. But as you can see, there's so little colour on here that I tend to use all the colour I can from it. But for me, I don't wash them. But that's just my personal choice. And I blend in the lid always. For me, if you blend in the lid, it does two things, look. It just gets that ink over the whole of the brush and it blends it. Try not to dab it because that almost gives it light and dark areas. But actually that blending, but also I can come back and that's my ink palette. I can pick up more ink from there. Also a little tip with these, I tend to hold this. There's a worry that it might flick up. So for me, I tend to just hold it here, look. And I'm just going to come in and I'm using the larger brush. and I'm just going to add, and I'm going to go straight in these corners and add some lovely ink. Then I'm just going to come in down this side, and then obviously because I can't hold this now, I'm just going to brush that ink. Now if you want to go to a smaller, the number 3 stencil brush, I want this just with the purple, and I like that light. I want to almost keep that light a bit there, so I'm just coming down this edge. But if you want it dark around the edge, go to your smaller stencil brush and bring in a darker colour, maybe something like the midnight blue, and you can give this 2 tones. But I just want that a bit lighter, so I'm not going to over ink that. So if I lift that up, quick and easy as that, and we'll file that over there to clean later. So that was your flying fig. And now we'll come in and stamp Penelope. And I'm going to use the Versafine Clair, the Nocturne. And I'm just going to ink her up. Now again, it may be off shot. I don't want to put her on I'm so conscious of trying to keep this clean and not drop anything on it this week. So I'm just going to stand above, and I just want Penelope there. And again, she's a silhouette, so just give that ink time to soak in. It's so important to let that ink soak in. I think especially if you're sort of having a bad day, or if you're a bit nervous, or sometimes we rush with lifting our block up and the ink just hasn't had time to soak in. And it's better to just, you see how that looks lovely when it's just left to soak in. And now we'll come in with Specter. So again, just going to ink him up, nice light tapping. And I'm going to put him sort of over here, just so his claw, his foot is just on the edge of this shape. And again, just give that ink time to soak in. Lovely. And I love that noise, that sort of noise. And then I've got one of the Ickle pumpkins now. There's 2 on here, one with a face and one with a window. So I'm going for the one with the face. And just because I love this shape, I'm going to pop that down here. But I'm also going to stamp that on a little scrap. Look, now, if you're like me, you save every little scrap of card. So the time to use those up is now. So just stamp, and then we can decoupage that. So what I'm going to do now is just give that a blot. Again, your Versafine Clair, slow drying ink, so make sure you give that a good blot. And what I'm going to do is just come in with one of my little circle masks just to make the moon. And I want the moon over here, sort of, look, I can actually get Specter's head in it. And I'm actually going to, you could just, if you wanted to have the moon, if you're making a smaller design, look, you can just pop it sort of inside this area. But I want to have it in and out. So if I just sort of put it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to ink up. I'm going to see if I've got enough ink I better have left on my brush. I have, look. And so what I can do is I want to just fuzzy this edge a little bit. So I'm very gently holding it. I'm really tickling. Just to sort of taper that colour, a bit like a cloud just coming across there and there. And again, that's another way of using all that ink on your brush. Now, what I do want to do is bring in, and I've got this lovely stencil called Charming. And as you saw last week, I love the way it looks like flames. So in mind, and you know, I bring you into my mind, and I do say, you know, sometimes it's not particularly the best place to come. But in my head, I was thinking, it's flames, look, coming up from the cauldron. So I've already added a little bit of stencil work here, just coming up from the cauldron area. So I want to carry that across now, across here. So if I get my stencil, and if I put it there, that would just about match, if I'm lucky, and you never know these days. What, with Mr. Mojo, Mr. Good Luck? Right, I think that's going to match. And just to show you, this is purely luck. When I did the base here, look, I literally just did it there. But because of the way Tracy's drawn the stencil, it means that that will then work, that I can find, and it almost tessellates, so it keeps that pattern going. So if I pop that on there, right, happy with that. And the colours I'm going for is the Sahara. You know, I love my Sahara. And a little bit of russet orange. So I'm going to come in first with the Sahara and blend it in the lid. And where I've got this Sahara here, just to see if I can carry on. And I can go across the pumpkin because we're going to decoupage him. And I want it to go right across the middle of the design. Now, it might be you wanted to leave this area without. And what's lovely about this is we've got choices. I'm even going right across the moon. I just fancied the stencil to go the whole way. But like I say, it's totally up to you. You might just want it round the edge as an accent. So I'm just going to lift that up and have a look. Yeah, just want a little bit more in here. Then I'm going to come in with my orange brush. Now I've actually got some orange ink on my lid, so I'm not going to dip it in the ink pad. I'm just going to take what's on my lid and add a little bit down here, and then in this corner. And I just feel it'll sort of accentuate that corner. Let's have a look. Yeah. Now, if you look, the way we had to have the stencil for this, it looks like there's something missing there. So I just want to see if I can maybe just catch a weeny bit in that corner. Just need a tiny bit more up there. There we go. Again, that was a bit of good luck rather than good management. So it just extends right up into that corner. And if I move this, can you see? Hopefully we've got from here, we're going to have that lovely cohesive design going all the way. So I'm going to put the lids on these because otherwise, like I say, I'm so conscious at the minute. Now, I'm sure it's not just me. Do you ever have phases like that? You know, I think sort of if we have a bit of a busy spell, or sometimes there's bugs going around, we can be a bit unwell, or we can have things on our mind. You know what we're like. I mean, is it just me? Am I a worrier? Am I the only one? I wish I wasn't. I take things to heart. Do you? I need one of them invisibility cloaks, you know. But anyway, do you ever have times like that where some days you do drop things and knock things over, and a bit of one of them, if you drop your toast on the floor, it's going to land marmalade side down, not marmalade side. See, I can't even speak, can I? So that just shows you what I'm like at the minute. I need a new Penelope. I think that's what I need, an injection of Penelope-ness. So what we've got is we've got this design here. And I like the design, but it needs those little finishing tricks. And to me, that's just what makes all the difference. So I'm going to come in with this lovely stamp, and this is off Stars 2 Mini. And I've got a few different stars, but I really like this one. It just fitted the bill somehow. And the colours I'm going to use, I've gone for Cheerful and Monarch. So we'll stamp Cheerful first. It's a lovely bright yellow. And you can see I've got a couple here. So if I sort of follow this design, now again, remember, we are decoupaging our pumpkin. So it means I can stamp over him. And I'm thinking just a couple. I don't want to overcook it. So we'll get rid of that colour and then come in with the Monarch, just to keep those purpley tones. And when I stamped down at the base, because this is faint, I use second generation. So I'm thinking Monarch, we need one in the middle there, don't we? And then I think one there. Definitely need one up here. Now, do we need one there? I'm going to go for it right across. Yeah, that's just enough. Walk away, Mrs. Rice. Enough. I was at a show the other week and a lovely gentleman I was talking to said, I do make him laugh because, and hello, by the way, to all you lovely people who come and said hello. And he said, I do say stop and then I do a bit more. Again, am I the only person who does that? So I'm listening to you and you're right, I needed to stop then. Lovely. So let's get our pastel pencils out. Now remember, with that stencil, with that ink, you can give it a spritz and you've got a background to go in your journal. So with our pumpkin look, we'll just smudge a little bit of shade, again under Penelope, and then just under the arch here, just to give it a bit more of a 3D look. So again, just smudge that pastel pencil. It'll fix it, but also it just makes it look that more spooky look. And a little bit under Penelope. I mean, if you wanted to make it look like a cloud, you know, look, you could just come in and we could just have a bit of a spooky cloud going across there. So we've got a little bit under there. And then with the yellow, we just add a little bit round the lantern look. And what I found when I've used the yellow, I use the white to almost smudge it. So I'm just going to add a little bit of highlight on Penelope's hat first, and a little bit on a dress look. Just where from the moon it would just catch on this side. And then I'm going to come in and smudge that yellow with the white. And we've got that lovely glow. And to me, that just makes all the difference. And we'll add a little bit on Specter. We'll give him a wing there. Just a little bit on his wing. And then here, where we've got that cloud, just going to fuzzy that a little bit more with my white pastel. Two things, it'll just fuzzy it, but also I just think we can take the cloud right across there, look. We've got that nice moody. And again, you can just add as little or as much as you want. I don't want to overcook it with the cloud. Again, I'm learning my lesson, walk away. So that's all I'm going to do with my pastel pencils. But just to show you, we've got a lovely pumpkin here that I've already cut out. And you know me, I'm a bit of a tinker. I don't cut this top bit out. So if I just colour this one in, just show you, again, cheats colouring. So with my Mondelez pencils, 3.5 and 170. And I just do that little bit where, with the red, I just sort of go where I want a bit of shade. So at the top and then at the bottom. Now again, our Mona does the most fabulous colouring with these pencils. She is amazing. And Mona, I missed you last weekend, darling. Can't wait to catch up with you next year. I hope you enjoyed everything we did online, everybody, and I hope you've checked them all out. If you didn't, go back and have a look. Fabulous tutorials from all the creatives. So I'm just going to come in, but as I say, Mona does fabulous colouring with these pencils. I'm afraid I just do a Joe's cheat. So I'm coming in with the orange there. And then I'm going to come in with the yellow. And what I tend to do with the lighter colour, the yellow here, I'll go over all three colours and I use it to blend the colours together. And that just almost gives me that bright highlight. So I've got my lovely pumpkins with a bit of depth from that red. They're mainly orange, but we've got a little bit of light and shade. You all right, Eric? Sorry, Eric's just having a dream. So it just shows you how you can just very quickly. And then all I would do is with one of our green Signo pens, I'm just going to add a little bit at the top there, ready for when I cut it out. And then on our finished one here, again, I'm just going to colour that in with a green. And I've gone for one of my metallic markers just because I want it to show up well over that lovely purple. And if I bring in, you see, now I can just pop that over there and that green will match beautifully. It'll just help hide the fact that I've decoupaged it. Now again, Bippity Boppity glue, and a little tip, I used to put the glue on here, but when I'm having a bit of a dropsy time, what I've discovered is when I put the glue, I could easily drop this. So it's easier for me now to put my glue on there and have less chance of dropping it everywhere. You know, we do these things, don't we? And we just find ways. Now, with my white pen, just going to add a couple of little highlights just as well. I know we've got the pastel, but I just like to add a little bit of the white as well. Just a couple of, not too much. And then just to finish off, the lovely yellow posca, so we'll give that a nice shake. And then I'm just going to come in, I'm just going to direct it, just following the shape where those stars are. So we've got it along here, over the moon, and it'll show up beautifully on that purple, around Penelope, around the pumpkin. And if I lift this up to show you, so it's actually taken it down. So when I added the stamping here, I've got some posca. So look at that. So it just follows beautifully all the way up. And that's what I like about this, just to make it that lovely cohesive design so you can see it all going through. Right, I need a sentiment. And I'm going for express yourself, because I think Penelope, that's what she's doing. Or is she looking for Specter? Maybe Specter is her, maybe she has him at home. Maybe he's a friend and maybe he's escaped. I was going to say pet. You see, I couldn't think of the word pet. How can you forget the word pet? Or maybe she's just gone out looking and she's heard a noise. But I think October is a real month for expressing yourself. Now, am I going... You see, I was going to put it up here, but I think it's too near the October. And I think it just follows that line there. So that's where I'm going to go. We shall get rid of that. And as always, I can't wait to see your October month and see how you create your design. So as always, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll pop back and see you again tomorrow. Enjoy your evening and you take care. Love and hugs from me. Bye for now.